this is what I'm on today. It's the Lexmoto Diablo 125. As far as a scooter goes, it's quite a nice looking one, to be fair. It does have its issues, and I'll talk about that shortly, but for now, let's have a look around the bike and I will show you all angles. We'll start off with a full 360. Let's do that first. And there's our close-up. I'll point out the things I like first of all. I really like the colour scheme. I love this front end as well. Very sporty looking. It does look like, if you were to zoom in, it does look like some kind of sports bike, doesn't it? It's only when you zoom out you can see it's a scooter, but close up, yeah, I do like the looks. It's very sporty looking, especially at the front as well. Again, that could quite easily be a sports bike, looking at it like that. Disc brakes, side stand, and you've got a centre stand as well. It looks like a new bike as far as the plastics go. You can see some wear and tear on this. Now bear in mind, this bike is a couple of years old. The 2022 bike. So it has been used, this bike, so you can see odd bits of corrosion on the stands, for instance, a few little marks here and there. Shocks, it's just got the one. That just makes it look a bit weird. Been on quite a few of these scooters recently, and they would have two, or if they have one, they have a central one where that's just got one. Yeah, it's very strange that, just one on your left hand side. You'll have to watch the test ride to see if that's any good, and I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. It is a sporty looking scooter, and it's got quite a sporty ride to it. You do have the step through, however it is raised a little bit in the middle. Not much of an issue, you can still step through it fine, and you need to because the seat height is 790 millimeters, and because the suspension doesn't come down a lot when you sit on, that means it's quite a high seat. The only issue I have with this bike is I'm not tall. My arms aren't particularly long, but my elbows are tucked in at my sides and I've got hold of the bars. So I do feel quite cramped, and I'm quite large in certain areas, and that's where I do feel like this bike doesn't have a lot of room. Now if you're a skinny little whippersnapper, then yeah, you won't have the same issues. However, you will have the same issues with your arms. The seat as well, you're quite limited. It's not like you can move all the way back. It's not got a bench seat, so you can't move back and stretch your arms. The seat does slope down quite a lot, so when you're sat on this bike, it does feel like you've got some lower back support, but that also means that you're restricted with how far you can move back. Now if you were much taller, you might feel a little bit more cramped than me, and I'm only 5'8", so you'd have to do the maths yourself depending on how tall you are. There is a bag hook, but it would have to be a small bag to fit you in there and your bag, so maybe like a little carrier bag, you might be okay. Buttons wise, just a standard really, with your horn indicators, your high-low beam on this side, and the right hand side, again standard, you've just got your engine start and your cut off. Kilometers on top, you've got your miles per hour on the bottom. Just basic information on here. I like the fact it's got a fuel gauge, that's good. It's got a clock, total miles. Your buttons here, you can go through date, you can go through little functions like your trip computer. Quite a basic setup, but it's got everything that you need, and it's quite easy to read when you're on the move as well. Let's have a look under the seat, something everybody wants to know, and I've not looked under here yet, so what sort of storage have we got, if any? That's not bad actually. So my helmet, it's got comms on it and it's got the GoPro. So you can see it does actually, I think it would fit in if it didn't have those things. The comms there is just catching on it, but if it didn't have the comms, it would fit a full face helmet in. So if you've got a smaller helmet, you wouldn't have a problem with that whatsoever. Little toolkit as well. I do like the looks of it. You'll have to join me for the test ride to see how it performs, but aesthetically it's a nice looking scooter. It's a 125 that will do the magical 60 mile an hour, and from my initial ride, yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't, because it is quite nippy. I do have a couple of issues like you've seen. It's a little bit cramped for me, but that's just because I'm used to arms out a little bit. So if you're new to biking, that probably wouldn't even bother you because it's all you'd know. But because I jump on loads of different bikes, the majority of which your arms are out in front of you, not tucked in at the side. So yeah, I suppose it's just what you get used to, and you would get used to it. It's not uncomfortable, it's just different. Yeah, I think the only thing left for me to do now is to go on a little ride. Join me, you can see exactly how it performs. It's up for sale for £1,699. So if you compare that to a brand new one, and bear in mind it's only got about 1,000 miles, but a brand new one is going to cost you about £700 more. So you'd have to decide, is £700 a big enough saving for you to warrant you getting a used one, or would you go for a new one? Let's look at it from a sensible money saving point of view. £700 in fuel costs would probably sort your fuel on this for years, depending on how much you ride obviously, but I would have thought that it would cover you for years because these are very, very fuel efficient. Most 125s will do over 100 miles per gallon, and I don't see why this wouldn't do exactly the same. So yeah, let's go for a ride. Let's see how it performs. If you have one of these, if you're interested in getting one of these, if you've got any questions about one of these, just drop me a comment and I'll try my best to answer you. If I can't give you the answer to a certain question, I can always ask the guys in the garage. Do I love it? Do I like it? Would I recommend it? Let's find out together, shall we? Let's go. It does look very Ducati-esque with the colour scheme. I really do like the colour scheme. Yeah, I like the looks of it. I like the price of it more. The 125 market at the minute is really, really good. There's some awesome deals to be had. But I do feel a little bit cramped on this one. I have got quite a bit of knee room, but I feel like the bars are very close to me. Top speed, you're probably going to be talking around the 60 mile an hour mark, aren't you? I can't see them going much faster than that. I might be wrong. If you've got one, let me know. What sort of speeds have you had out of yours? As far as comfort goes, I do feel a little bit scrunched up. Now I'm not particularly tall, so it's not the height that's getting me. This is 114 kilograms, so it's not the lightest bike in the world by any stretch, but it's not really heavy either, so it's nice and easy to move around. You can push it around with ease. It's a lot lighter than your bigger motorcycles. But the suspension is actually quite hard. It's like sports bike type suspension. These little speed bumps here, I'm feeling every single bump, and yeah, it has got a sporty riding feel to the suspension. For a 125, it's about right. It's not what I would call an impressively quick 125, but it's not a slow 125 either. Personally, I've got no problem with taking a 125 on a little adventure. I have took 125s on the motorway myself, and I don't have a problem with it. As long as it'll do 60 miles an hour, you can just sit in that slow lane, can't you? And you can do a bit of an adventure. Now, obviously, if you're 17 years old or you're just riding this bike on the CBT in the UK, then you're not allowed on the motorway with it. However, you can do dual carriageways that do have 70 mile an hour speed limits. So you can test it out on something like that and see how fast it will go and stretch its legs properly. It goes around the bends quite well. This is as good as any other scooter that I've been on. You do feel quite compact on it, so you can sneak in those little gaps, can't you? So it'd be alright for that. Brand new, I believe they're about £2,300 or something. So if you bought one new, you'd have the on-the-road costs as well. So the on-the-road costs are usually another £200. I'm going to sneak past these. So you're talking probably £2,500 to get something like this brand new. So considering the age of this bike, which it's a 22 plate, so it has been used. It looks like it's got about 1,000 miles on the clock, so in 2 years it hasn't been used that much. It's still quite, well, it's very low mileage. There is quite a significant reduction in the price. So the used price on this bike is, I believe it's about £1,700. So it's about a £700 saving off a brand new one, and it still looks like a brand new one, albeit it's not. It's still shiny new. I'm sure you could, in fact it doesn't even need polishing. It's actually quite clean, this bike as is. So it's like a £700 saving off a new one. £700, it would probably pay for your fuel on this bike for quite a few years, depending obviously how many miles you do, but the average scooter rider's not going to be doing 100,000 miles a year, are they? £700 is a hell of a lot of fuel. So if you look at it that way, from a savings point of view, it does pay to get something a year or so old. Let's talk horsepower, shall we? This has got something like 9 horsepower to it. 9 horsepower is alright. For something with this kind of weight, it means it does feel quite nippy, quite sprightly when you open it up. It's a nice little scooter. That's probably the best way to sum it up. It is. It's a nice little scoot. It's cheap, it's cheerful, it looks nice in these colours. As far as your modern day scooters go, I think it's got a really sporty look to it. It's got a really sporty ride to it as well. So fine on the roads, but it is gonna make you feel every single bump that you ever go on. So it's not the most comfortable, spongiest place I've ever sat, but it's okay, you know, if you're into a sporty feel, it's fine. Oh, I'm bumping a bit. You can save a little bit of money having something like this. It's quite a cheap bike. In fact, it's not quite a cheap bike, it's a very cheap bike. It's £1,699 for a bike that has done about 1,000 miles. So a used bike, bargain, maybe. It fits under that criteria. If you're 17 and looking for your first bike, then this could well be an option for you, because it ticks a lot of boxes. The only thing I don't like on it, it just doesn't suit my frame, because I'm quite, let's say, muscly. Pretend you haven't seen how fat I am, but let's say my muscly build sat on this seat means that I am quite cramped and my elbows are tucked in, and yeah, I do feel a little bit scrunched in on it. But if you're 17, a little whippersnapper, male, female, whatever, you won't have the same problem unless you are a similar muscular build. So that's going to do me. Thanks for joining me on this one. I'll catch you on the next. Laters.